How many times have you been using a piece of software that your business runs off of? Maybe a course platform, maybe a community platform, maybe a CRM, and you've gone to try and do something that you think would be logical and it just doesn't work like that. I have been that person for years, squeezing a round peg into a square hole or a square peg into a round hole, even. I think you can fit a round peg in a square hole. And I've definitely been a bit of a platform hopper. I've tried loads of different course communities, softwares. I've been on Teachable, I've been on Kajabi, I've been on Mighty Networks. I nearly recently moved to Heartbeat. I've had Skool communities, multiple ones. And every single time I'm on one of these platforms, I end up frustrated as hell because I'm a marketer and I think like a person that wants to create a fantastic customer experience and design something that people are going to want to use so that we will have retention, we'll have people staying, and also an amazing onboarding experience so that people come in and get a great experience and want to continue their membership or continue to stay. And every single time I come up with an idea to improve that process or that journey, there just isn't the moving parts that I need available to create the thing that I want to create. And so I end up in the same situation again, which is that, well, I can't do it. Or I need to move platforms in order to be able to do it. A couple of examples, the way payment plans are set up. If I want to give people an option of paying in 3-month installments instead of monthly installments, as an example, I can only do that if the platform has that as a feature. Now, one of the things I always do is then head to the roadmap and see, well, is it coming soon? And actually, sometimes things are coming soon. And so it's like, okay, well, just sit tight. The developers making it is coming soon. And that's really cool. I really love to be able to look at a roadmap for that reason. That's kind of how I've worked with software. And the thing is when you run an online business and your business is solely on the internet, and your shop is on the internet, the way you communicate with people is on the internet, the customer experience is on the internet, it's all on the flipping internet. You need a solution that is going to enable you to provide the service that you want, because it's not like you've just got your own shop front and you've got people coming into it and you could just design it and build it how you want. No, actually, the truth is that historically, if you want to build your own bit of software, you need a team of developers and a budget of at least 100 grand. In fact, I remember one of my mentors building an app and it cost him 500,000. And like, who's got that budget in the solopreneur startup business world? I mean, unless you've got huge investment, and then you need to go, well, is this really worth the investment? Like, how many users and how many months of membership do we need in order to get the return on that investment? Like, that's a huge operation that you need to be running in order for that to make sense, right? So we go back to putting a square peg in a round hole again. And, the really exciting thing is that this limitation just doesn't exist anymore. Like, it just doesn't need to be the case anymore. And look, here's the thing. You still got to understand a few things in order to build your own platform. Like, it's not super easy. You can't just head into Claude and be like, create me a CRM. I mean, like, there's a lot of considerations. You've got email deliverability issues. You need email verification. I mean, oh my God, it's a whole world. Like, it's a whole world. Like, if you're not in the email world anyway, if you don't understand all this stuff anyway, it's going to be really tough. So you've got to have a level of understanding about how the things you want to build work, because you could end up getting yourself, knee deep in just like chaos because you don't really know what you're doing. But the limitation has been removed because you don't need to be a developer anymore. You don't need to be able to understand code. See, what Claude and also Codex, which is ChatGPT's version of Claude Code, what they do is they act as essentially senior developer on your team. It's like, imagine you hired a senior developer and you had that person on your team. You would say to them, I want this. And then they would transcribe what you're wanting into code that actually makes it fruition into something. So you don't need to be able to code. You don't need to understand the coding language. You just need to understand what you want. That's really actually harder than you might think. And one of the things that you can get wrong is not knowing what you want and then building something that just turns out to be a little bit strange and counterintuitive. So that is essentially what we are looking at today. Now, should you build something for the sake of it is the question, and the answer is no. Like, for instance, calendar software. Is there any need to build yourself a new calendar software because you can? No, not necessarily. Like, there needs to be an actual problem that you want to solve. And I think the most obvious one is course software and also community platforms as well. And I'm going to use Skool as a use case for this, because otherwise we could just be talking in general terms and we've got nothing to tie it down to. One thing I just want to be really clear about is that I think Skool is a great platform, and I think it's great for the purpose that it was created. I'm specifically wanting to come off it because it doesn't meet my desired use case. I'm going to walk you through why and what that looks like, and how I plan to change it so that you can see my thought process behind that. But one thing just to note before we go and do that is that every bit of mass market software has been made for mass market, with mass market in mind, even if it's a niche, right? So Skool is specifically targeted to experts who want to build a community around the thing that they are an expert in or they have knowledge in, right? So that could be anything. That could be fermenting vegetables, and it could be knitting, and it could be parenting, and it could be absolutely bloody anything. And so that's what their mass market use case is. Now, that is the same for every piece of mass market software. It has been produced for a very wide variety of people in mind. And the barrier being down, what that means is we can now, without needing to go into that mass market solution that is supposed to solve a problem for everybody and therefore doesn't solve a specific problem for anybody, we don't need to lean on that as much, because now we can create our own custom solution. So the key really is knowing what custom solution looks like for you. So first and foremost, I would have a look at your customer journey. And the customer journey is the most important piece, because really the only thing that we generally build these platforms for is to provide a great customer experience, because customer experience equals customers staying and recommending and joining. And so without that, what's the point? So customer experience is the key. But when it comes to designing and defining your own customer experience, the first thing you want to have a look at is the platform that you're on, and is it really not good enough for what it is that you want to do? So inside this Skool community, the reason my Skool community exists is because it essentially is supposed to do two things. Number one, it's supposed to provide the resources that go with the videos that I'm putting out into the world. So if you have a look in the classroom, I have all these resources that I've made that go with the videos that I'm putting out on YouTube and also my Ruthlessly Effective show. For instance, Ruthlessly Effective is the kind of the front door, because that's the videos that I'm putting on YouTube. And then off the back of Ruthlessly Effective, I create extended show notes. And the extended show notes are basically everything that I went through in that episode in detail, so that people can copy the exact process that I shared or the exact system that I shared into their own business without rereading their notes, reinventing the wheel, and anything, for instance, that I've shared, like prompts, or this was a make.com scenario. I've got the exact, scenario here that they can download and use as a step without needing to rebuild all this and just use this as a template. So that's the purpose of the extended show notes inside the Skool community. And so the problem with that is that how it works, if you go to the About page, this is what the Skool platform looks like when you click on it. And so if I'm on a YouTube video and I'm saying, jump into the Skool community where you'll get the extended show notes, they'll come to this page, make their account, land on a community that is semi looking a bit dead, to be honest. There's not that many comments and likes on posts. That as a first impression isn't the best thing I could create in the world. And then from there, they've then got to self-navigate into the classroom to go and try and find the resource that they're here for. And that's a massive problem, because if you confuse people, you lose people. So instantly what's going to happen is that people are going to click on to go into there and then go, well, I don't know where the thing is I'm supposed to be looking for. And by now I've forgotten where it bloody is. And then just never look at it again, maybe cancel the trial, maybe not cancel the trial because they forget, but not actually be an active user of the community. There's no real clear onboarding process there. I could draft and create an email sequence, but that brings me to the next limitation of Skool. The API is very, very limited. So in order to get my email CRM and any kind of automations, getting Skool when a new member joins to ping them a new email from my CRM to say welcome and then link up a welcome sequence so that they get, properly onboarded via email is like virtually impossible, because the tools that it gives you with Zapier, even when you buy the $99 per month, is like, I think you can only invite people to your Skool community. So you don't really own the email list of people that are in Skool. You have to scrape the emails out manually, or, use some really highly sticky tape sequence of Zapier prompts, if you can even find the actions that you need to get it to actually produce an email sequence or a good onboarding series for your new members. And this is the problem. I mean, there is a reason why they do that. It's stickiness and it's keeping people dependent on the platform. But the problem for someone that wants to provide a really good onboarding experience and, be able to customize these things, it's just far too limited. The other thing is inside Skool. So we've got the classroom, and then we've got, so effectively for them to get the show notes, they're now going into 2 clicks and then, getting it from a back door. The community as well is not the best first impression if you've got a small community. And then the calendar, the next thing that people come into the community for is to join my geek outs. And on that geek out, essentially what we're doing is hanging out together as a group and sharing what's working well for us in business. And like AI tools and tech, the idea is that you can see the use cases of other business owners in terms of all the changes that are happening in online business. Now, the thing is, that's quite difficult to find right now. And so the whole thing is kind of a little bit lackluster for what I want it to be. Let me tell you what my vision is for this community. My vision is that every single episode has its own landing page. And its own landing page is essentially like the name of the Ruthlessly Effective episode with grab the extended show notes, with that being the front door. Then when they enter the front door, it takes them directly to the show notes that they have signed up for. And then there will be an automated email sequence because it's connected instantly to my CRM, and therefore they get added and tagged and they get the emails going out to let them know that there are all these other things inside the portal that they need to know about. But if we don't tell them, they don't even know that they're there. There's some really great stuff in there. There's some really helpful things. And so having that email sequence is going to raise awareness of all the features of the platform. But the most important thing, I want to very quickly get them invited to the next Geek Out, because the purpose of the Geek Out is to build relationships with my audience. I got people joining the community. The Geek Out is there so I can meet them. I can connect with them. And that is the best thing I could possibly be doing. But it doesn't even function if they don't even know it's there. So that brings me to the next thing, is seeing the actual data off the back of what's happening inside the community. Like, what I can see on Skool, and actually Skool have been advertising my community, which is amazing. Thanks, Skool. Although it's not resulted in any signups. So look, here are my analytics. Now, one of the known things about Skool is it's really good for discoverability, right? You get found in the algorithm. Well, let me show you. My discoverability is terrible. I am ranking 9,496 on the Skool search. That's it. If you look up one of these keywords, I will rank 9,496. Ain't nobody scrolling down that far. That's probably my bad. I could probably spend a bit of time, create some better tags. But what's the point? Like, I'm not on here because I want Skool's SEO. Like, yeah, it would be cool, but actually, like, the purpose of this is to serve my existing audience. If I had a stream of people coming into this without seeing my videos, they would be missing a big piece of context. So really the front door is the YouTube channel, and then leading into this anyway. So, but just in case, like, I've heard a few people say, oh yeah, but Skool's really good for being discovered. Yes, but there's a lot of Skool communities, and you're not necessarily going to get discovered very easily. So on here, I just want to show you the traffic coming. And I imagine this is from the Skool ads, because all over Facebook, I'm seeing strategy geeks, and that's really cool. You can see that probably is the reason why I've got a 2.5% conversion rate on the sign up page. In terms of that, it's not really giving me that much data. If I build my own system, I can have a full tracking dashboard that tells me exactly where everyone's coming from, but also gives me much more in-depth data about what's performing well and what isn't, and enables me to be able to kind of customize the journey further based on what people need. And here's the thing. I want you to think of it like this. Being able to build your own software, like you would think there are like not very many limitations. It is like having a box of Lego, and you can build anything that Lego lets you build. Now, limitations are you can't build spheres with Lego unless you've got a specific sphere Lego building kit that gives you all the rounded pieces. You can't build spheres. But the difference is it's like buying your own house where you can design the inside of it exactly how you want. The only limitation you have is, well, how do I want it to look? Like, how do I want it to be? I'm not an interior designer. I don't know how to make things look good. And this is the same with Canva. You know, we had this limitation where you could only get graphics done by graphic designers. And then Canva turned up, and now that made it accessible to everyone. And the problem is that people just are bad at designing stuff. Like there's a whole new skill set that they just don't have yet. And so that is the new limitation. It's not, can we build it? It's what can we build? What should we build? And getting the architecture right. So that's what I want to just go through: onboarding, navigation, tracking and data, connections to other apps, and also design. We'll put that in there because I think it looks like it was built in the 1980s. Like they didn't really put much effort in making that look very modern, did they? But that's just personal preference, and that's fine. Okay, so what we want to think about then in terms of architecture, and I'm sure I'll probably miss some things here. And if I do, feel free to correct me, because I'm not sat here pretending to be a developer or pretending to be perfect. I'm just coming at this from the perspective of someone who has been designing and creating courses for about 8 years now, been in online marketing for nearly a decade, and has looked after hundreds, thousands of customers. And by the way, that is something that is really flipping cool, because having the experience that I've got and now being able to build whatever the hell I want is a very, very fun door that's opened. But yeah, anyway, so in terms of architecture then, what we want to think about is hosting, data storage, logins. The next thing that we want to think about is the onboarding process, and essentially let's call it the function. What are the key functions that you want to happen inside that app? Like, what's the main screen? What's the main point? How do you want people to experience it? And I'm going to essentially stop talking about this generally and get into like what I'm going to do for Skool so that we can apply this to an actual use case. So in terms of the hosting then, I am going to use Versal. And I'm going to do a Next.js, I think. And the reason being, and this is an important consideration, if you want to be on the Apple App Store, you have to build in iOS. And so I am going to build on Versal, and that's the type of app I'm going to create. Data storage, I use Neon. And that's really important because you're going to need somewhere to store secure data. And Neon is a really good place to do that. Logins, my favorite front door for apps is Clerk. It will just create a really robust login experience for your users where they feel like things are secure, because they are. It demonstrates the security that it has in looks, which is really nice. And then we want to think about also, what do we want the functions to be? So for me, the really important thing is that I've got landing pages for every episode. And this is like a community platform that supports a podcast. So if you imagine you've got show notes for a podcast, then every show notes is a landing page for that podcast extended show note, every show notes page. So let me give you an example. So Amy Porterfield's podcast, I think her show notes would be like amyporterfield.com//2, and that's everything there. Now her show notes is just a little roundup of what she's doing, but I'm basically turning every episode into a full-blown working workbook for people. And so it would bring you to a page like this with the show notes on, but it's got the title rendered of what the show notes are and the rest blurred, a bit like when you go to these newspaper sites now and you can't read the rest of the article, or a Substack and you can't read the rest of the Substack, a bit like that. So there's going to be a free trial. and this is another thing that's important to note, is that we've got free 7-day trial plus then $5 per month, which, by the way, is another really annoying restriction of Skool. I think these days what makes sense is to have multi-currency set up so that anyone from around the world sees your product in their currency, and therefore it reduces the friction. But Skool, they force you to be in dollars. And that's a real limitation because all my other products right now are in pounds. But the thing is, as well, is that the reason why I'm putting a price point on this too is so that I've got a barrier to entry for the geek outs and for people in the community, because I really want to bring people in that are serious about solving these problems and learning more about this stuff. And so it's actually not a money generator for me. It is just a barrier to entry point, really, so that I'm filtering out people that are just not really that interested. And that means that I'm not going to build an email list again of like 10,000 people, and a chunk of those are not really there because they're really interested. That's my kind of focus now with list building, is that I've got a list of people that are super interested in what it is that I'm doing. And so that free 7-day trial, then $5 a month, I'm going to use Stripe for that. So we need to get that into the architecture. We've got Stripe hosted payments for that because it's what I've always used. I don't know. So it's definitely not going to build my own. It's one thing. It's just absolutely no point. It works. It does everything I need it to do. There's no point in changing it. So landing pages for every episode's show notes with paywall or a trial wall. And then inside, the community is not the front page anymore. The front page is the resources, but after payment, they land on the right show notes. And then to the left, there's a menu so that we've got it clear that there's other features in there. And so we can have the show notes library, the Geek Outs. Now, the Geek Outs is another one because the Geek Outs needs to be its own section because, yeah, there needs to be a calendar for the Geek Outs, but also this is like a really cool thing that we've started doing inside Strategy Geeks, which is that we're having these hangouts and then we're making a tip library off the back of it. So for instance, this one here was a hangout where we ended up talking about like security of your apps and making them safe and making sure that you've got a checklist of things that you can tick off. And we had Garen on the call, who is an expert in this exact thing, and we were able to like tap into Garen's mind and find out from him all the things that he recommended. And he went the extra mile and created a security checklist for everybody that's creating their own apps. So we've got resources that are coming in to the portal off the back of the Geek Outs that are really, really powerful. And this recap and tip library, let me just show you what it looks like. If you didn't manage to get to one of these live, you can just come and see like the roundup, and there's loads of really cool tips that you can pick up of things that people have shared, different stuff that, you know, they've discovered, that they're doing, that they're using. And you get to peer over and look at everyone else's Lego essentially and see what are you building? And that's really fun. But there is this recap and tip library at the moment. So in terms of the Geek Outs, that needs its own section. And that's going to be the calendar, the replays, the tip library. Another thing that I want in the functions is to have an AI-powered search. So it can search the entire portal for anything that was discussed or talked about. And so the replays will include transcripts. So it can search everything and it can say, oh yeah, you need to watch this video, whether it's one of the YouTube videos or one of the replays of the Geek Outs. It'll be like, oh, the thing that you're after is in this video here. Oh, and here's the exact tip library that you need to read. I mean, that's flipping cool, isn't it? An AI-powered search engine that is able to now look through all of these resources and give people exactly what they're after without them even needing to look for it. They can type in the latest replay of Geek Outs and it just comes up. And here's the thing, guys. I'm getting excited now because this is what I really, really want to tell you, is that when it comes to kind of stuff, all of these are so many moving parts for a solopreneur. And managing that Skool community at the moment, I need to put the events in the events calendar, create the tip library, upload the tip library. I need to get the Zoom recording and put the Zoom recording in there with the title and build it in the classroom. And because Skool have like absolutely no API or MCP where I can just ask AI to do it for me, it's a lot of manual work for me or for an assistant. And look, I'm not afraid of working. Like, I work so hard, but what I'm wanting to do is systemize and reduce the amount of work that all these moving parts create. So it's a constant game of like, where should we spend our time? And we've only got so much time to spend. But if you've got your own platform, now you can create your own MCP. You can create your own API entry points and webhooks. And what that basically means is you can tell Claude Code that you want it to be connectable to your Claude so that you can tell Claude to do stuff in your community. Like, man, that is game changing in terms of the amount of time we're now going to save. Because yeah, I want this searchable engine and the transcripts and the YouTube videos and the other videos and the replays and the tip libraries, but I just don't want to have to create and upload and publish all of that because quite frankly, I don't have time to do so. So what I'm going to create is automations now that take the legwork out of running it. Because if it's my platform, I can build them and get anything to speak to it and make it work. And so what I'm going to do is that when there is a replay of Strategy Geeks, it goes from Zoom to Google Drive, and then it gets added into Strategy Geeks as a published replay. The transcript is stripped from it, turned into the tip library and published there for me as well. And those things cause the AI search engine to readily be able to read them because they're now in the system. Then once it's done that, it pings a notification to everybody to let them know the replay's up. That is just revolutionary. The amount of time I've spent like manually doing this stuff and hiring someone else to do it for me. And it costs a lot of money to hire someone to do that. And when you're a solopreneur, money is tight. You haven't got all the budget in the world to spend on a big team. And, maybe you don't even want a team. And so it's just really reduced the friction there for us as creators to be able to provide an even better experience for our audience. At the moment in Strategy Geeks, it's taking me 6 days to get the video uploaded because it's just not priority. Like, I can't prioritize it over all the other stuff I've got. It just doesn't make any sense. And so when I finally get it in there, it's great. But then, I send a notification and So here's the cool thing is that inside the infrastructure, then we can start to think, well, what do we want the automations to look like? Because I want to get the replays land instantly as soon as they're available in Zoom, if we can. Skip out that Google Drive step. We'll just go direct to the source and get the goods. Transcripts dropped instantly. And of course, you can definitely put I will put a thing in here that's like, ping me a notification or wait for my approval. And I go in and I just have a look at everything it's done, just in case it's accidentally like put something in there that shouldn't be there. But then I can have a guard, like everything waits for Cordelia's approval before publishing. So that's about creating workflows as well. This show happens Tuesday at 11. So after the show, we need a process where I probably need to manually upload the video and the transcript into Google Drive. And then at 12 o'clock, we've got a scheduled Claude co-work session set to run to go and retrieve them and then convert it into everything that's needed. And so these are the kind of workflows that you can set up. It's just what I really want to get across to you is that all of this is now possible and anything is possible now. The question is, what can I create? How should I create it? What could that look like? And the actual designing of it. And that's the part that I'm really good at and that, sometimes people can really struggle with. And so one thing that I am doing at the moment is systems architecture calls where I am jumping on to have a look at what system you want to build or what it could look like. And basically I design it for you and build it with you so that you can be creating custom systems for a fraction of the price that you would spend on having a dev team where you've got a custom solution built exactly for what it is that you are wanting to create for your onboarding, for your course, for your community, for whatever it is. Because really, guys, we are at the end of the situation where we need to put any more square pegs in round holes. It is just not needed anymore. And just imagine what you could build if the barrier to entry was on the floor. And that's the thing. The barrier to entry is now on the floor. The only thing that you need to figure out is, what should I build? Not can I build it? Because it's possible. I just want to leave you on this, guys, which is that if you are feeling like you are building your business around a piece of software rather than building software around your business, you could potentially be leaving the business that you could be running on the table and running a business where it's a bit of a compromise. And I don't want that for you. And it's not necessary anymore. We are doing what we're doing. We're building what we're building because we are the people that had the imagination in the first place to create something and put it out there in the world. So now it's time to unleash that creativity and, get out there and build things the way you intended them to be built. And if you want some help with that, hit me up. I'm your girl. I'm Cordelia Kate. This has been Ruthlessly Effective, and I hope you got something from this. If you did, please drop it in the comments. Let me know, what is your biggest takeaway? What are you taking away from this session? And also, if you've been building something and you want to share it with us, pop it in the comments too. We'd love to see and know all about it. Lots of love, guys. Have a good one. I will see you next week.